For decades, we've had this incredible dream of building a real future in space. Not just planting flags, but creating a real, thriving economy out there. And it all starts with the unbelievable riches waiting for us in the asteroid belt.
I mean, just look at this. This is the dream, right? A busy mining station, a hub of industry, turning the cold, empty vacuum of space into a place of work, a place of value. It's a future where we're not just tourists in space, but actually living and working there.
But there's a huge problem, a massive flaw hiding in plain sight. And it's not a broken engine or a computer glitch. It's something much more fundamental. It's biological. There's one single thing that could bring this entire vision to a screeching halt. And that problem? Well, it's us. It's the human body. Turns out long-term weightlessness isn't some fun thrill ride. For an industrial worker, it's a critical safety hazard. It's a deal breaker that literally dissolves our bones and wastes away our muscles. So yeah, that brings us to the real deal breaker. You can't have a space economy without space workers. But our bodies were built for 1G, right here on Earth. Take that away, and we quite literally start to fall apart. So what actually happens to us in 0G? Well, it's not pretty. You're losing 1 to 2% of your muscle mass every single month. Your bones lose density at about 1% a month. That's like getting a severe case of osteoporosis, but way faster. And that's before you even get to the practical problems, like fluids pooling in your head or your wrench just floating away in the middle of a critical repair. You just can't run a factory like that. Okay, so how do we fix this? What's the solution? Well, the first idea that probably pops into your head is the most obvious one, right? Just push. Just use rockets to create gravity. But as we're about to see, this obvious solution slams right into a wall of impossible physics. And believe it or not, this idea comes straight from Albert Einstein. It's his equivalence principle. Basically, he proved that your body is not smart enough to know the difference between being pulled down by a planet and being pushed up by a rocket. Imagine you're in a sealed box of an elevator. If that elevator starts accelerating upwards really fast, you'd feel pinned to the floor, right? That feeling is totally indistinguishable from gravity. The floor is literally chasing you. So this concept has a name: linear acceleration. It's exactly like when you floor it in a car and get pushed back into your seat. To perfectly mimic Earth's gravity, all a spaceship has to do is accelerate constantly, non-stop, at 9.81 meters per second squared. So that sounds great, right? Problem solved. Well, not so fast. There's a massive, fatal flaw. See, to keep that feeling of gravity, you have to keep accelerating. Forever. You can never, ever stop. The amount of fuel you would need is, well, it's basically infinite. Great for a quick journey maybe, but for a permanent mining outpost? Absolutely not. You'd run out of fuel in no time. All right, so the brute force method is a bust. We need a smarter way to do this. Something more elegant. And that brings us to the beautiful and way more sustainable physics of spin. Now, you've probably done this yourself, or at least seen it. The old bucket of water trick. You swing a bucket over your head and the water stays put even when it's upside down. So why doesn't it fall out? It's all about inertia. The water wants to fly off in a straight line, but the bottom of the bucket gets in the way. It's constantly pushing against the bucket. Well, in space, you're the water, and the station's floor is the bottom of the bucket. So this isn't just some fun science fair trick with a bucket. This idea has been seriously tested. It's gone from a simple concept to actual proof, right there in the vacuum of space. Let's see how they did it. And this is the perfect way to picture it. On the left, you've got two ice dancers. They grab hands, they start spinning, and they feel that pull trying to fling them outward. On the right, that's NASA's Gemini 11 mission from way back in 1966, basically doing the exact same dance, but with 2 spacecraft and a 100-foot rope. I mean, the comparison is just perfect, right? Instead of holding hands, you've got a super strong polyester tether. That feeling of being pulled outward, away from your partner? In the spaceship, that becomes your down. And just like dancers need to find their rhythm to get a stable spin, the astronauts had to use little thrusters to get the tension on that tether just right. Okay, so this brings up a really weird question, one that kind of messes with your brain. If you're an astronaut inside that little capsule while it's spinning, which way is down? Which wall is the floor? And here's the aha moment. Since the tether is pulling from the nose of the capsule, your body wants to fly off in the opposite direction. So down is actually the back wall of the spacecraft. The heat shield. You'd literally be standing on it, with your head pointing towards the tether. And they actually prove this. A camera came loose inside and it floated right to that back wall. It just settled there. Perfect. And look, the evidence just kept piling up after Gemini. In the 70s, the Soviets flew satellites with spinning cages and proved that rats stayed healthy in artificial gravity. Today, on the International Space Station, they have tiny centrifuges to study how plants and cells react to different gravity levels. We've even spun tiny satellites to see how asteroid dirt behaves. The bottom line is, this science is rock solid. Okay, so we know the biology is a problem. We know the physics of spin.
Inside a spinning room, you get this strange feeling of being pushed sideways. It's called the Coriolis effect. But here's the thing. Studies on the ground have shown that people get used to it. They adapt in just a matter of days. So it's a really small price to pay for the massive, massive benefit to your long-term health.
And that really brings us to the single most important point of all of this. Artificial gravity? It is not a luxury. It's not some cool sci-fi convenience. If we are serious about people spending months or years living and working in space, it's a fundamental, absolutely non-negotiable requirement. It's the tool that lets us stay healthy, to stay human, out there among the stars.
And this right here, this is the end goal, isn't it? It's about taking the incredibly hostile, unforgiving environment of space and turning it into a place where we can actually live and work. A productive and ultimately a habitable place for us.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If the science for this was proven all the way back in 1966, what's been the real holdup for the last 60 years? The physics is solved, so maybe the barrier isn't about science anymore. Maybe it's about industrial will and economic investment. Maybe the next giant leap for humankind isn't about a new discovery, but just deciding to build.